Hello, everyone. Welcome to Momming and Thriving. Today, we've got Fiyin. Fiyin is a passionate 9 to 5er who has used her passion for career growth to build a successful business training and other corporate professionals. She currently serves as the Air Care Regional Marketing Manager for Godrej Africa, USA, and the Middle East cluster with strategic responsibility for brands such as Mega Growth, TCB Naturals, African Pride, to name a few. She's also a founder and a lead coach at EmpowerU Career Consulting. This is one of the reasons why we have her here today. She's a fantastic career coach. Apart from a professional life, she is an adrenaline junkie. She's traveled to several countries, 39, I believe, which is really cool. But also, she's a seasoned speaker. She's spoken in across Nigeria, Kenya, Turkey, Pakistan, and the UK. Fiyin, welcome to Momming and Thriving. Tell us a bit more about you and if there's anything I've not mentioned that is in your bio.
First of all, thank you so much, Twain. Super excited to be here. I'm really excited about what you're doing with the podcast and the women that you're reaching out to, the target audience, and the amazing content, the truths that are being told. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. I mean, you said 39 countries, so I'll say you're a prophet. It's actually 36, but that means I'm going to
Oh.
3 countries before the end of this year. Amen. I'm prophesying. Things things are not easy in Africa, but I've received my prophecy for today. I will go to an additional
Amen.
3 countries
Amen.
this year. uh, but yeah, I think you've said it all. The only thing that I'll add is that I graduated with not the very best of grades, but I have been able to break that myth and push the boundaries in terms of working for world class organizations. So, apart from my current role at Godrej, I previously worked at Mondelez International, the company that makes Cadbury products. I used to work at GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare. And I also used to
Mhm.
work at Diageo, which is Guinness Nigeria PLC. And I'm really passionate about developing people. I love traveling and I love enjoyment. That's me.
This is amazing. We all love enjoyment. We are so glad you're here today. Momming and Thriving is basically a podcast that is dedicated to women to elevate them. One of the things that caught my attention and made me reach out to you was your clips on Instagram and how you give like really snappy nuggets on how to
Mm,
present yourself on LinkedIn, how to kind of elevate yourself and make your CV stand out. Those are things that I think we need more of because
mm,
I think with a Gen Z, it's kind of easy to put yourself out there. But for some reason, I find that with millennials and a lot of people in our age group, sometimes it still feels a little bit like of a struggle when it comes to brushing up our CV and putting ourselves out there or making ourselves known on LinkedIn. Well, personally, I can speak for myself. It's something I've struggled with. So this was one of the reasons why I wanted you to speak to us and just advise us. But before we go into that, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now in your career. So, was this something you've always intended to? Was it the current career you're working at? Is this something you've always intended to do, or you just kind of fell into it?
Yeah, so I would love to say that I always wanted to work in marketing, building brands. It's been my lifelong dream, but absolutely not. Growing up, I wanted to be a hairdresser, a policewoman, a taxi driver, a detective, a pilot. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And then when I finished secondary school, because I got really good grades in science and art, automatically, because of the biology and chemistry where I got A's, my mom was like, "You're a doctor." And the journey into medicine started. I
Mm,
went, and did my A levels. I was doing science based, but I really wasn't passionate about medicine. I was basically doing what my mom wanted me to do. My dad was very supportive about, whatever you want to do. It was really my mom that was pushing the medicine agenda.
mm.
And by the time I finished my A levels, I didn't get the grades for medicine. And my mom was still pushing, don't worry, we can send you to Europe, some other schools. You can get in with those grades. I'm like, no, I think this is a sign. Medicine isn't for me. And so I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so
Mm.
I said, oh, what's the next best thing to medicine? And for me, it was psychology because I love talking. I like helping people, coaching. So I said, oh, psychology is like, a doctor of the mind. So I went
Mm.
and started this whole degree in psychology. And, as an African studying in England, one of the most prestigious things you can do is actually join the Afro Caribbean Society as an
Yeah,
African or
definitely.
person of Black descent. Yeah. And so I joined the ACS, Afro Caribbean Society, and I then put myself forward to run as social secretary. I won. And during my tenure, I had to organize different events, the publicity, I had to open a social media account. I was, you know, managing different events, creating the word of mouth and noise online about the events. And then I realized, ooh, I like this so. And then a friend of
Mm.
mine, I always say her name, I'm sure she's tired, Nikki Ajanoku was like, I don't think you have a career in psychology. Your career is in public relations and marketing and all of this stuff. You're so good at it. So to be honest with you, I really hadn't heard about public relations. I didn't know what it was. And so I Googled it. I was checking out on Google and prospects, everything about public relations. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a career I want to go into. And so that was how, while I was studying for psychology, I knew that I wasn't going to further in this field. So I graduated, I finished my course, and then I went and did a master's in PR in the UK as well. And once I was done, I moved back to Lagos because I was convicted from a spiritual point of view and also from a career point of view that Nigeria was where my, El Dorado, my promised land was. And so I hopped into Lagos. I started from the bottom, earning peanuts. P You know how the Bible says that, when they sent some people to spy the land and they said, they were like giants, and other people came and said, the land was flowing with milk and honey and so on. I saw
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity in that small business as an opportunity for me to grow, to be stretched, and to actually start my career. So I didn't care that they were paying me very little. At the time, it was 60K. I'm never shy to say it, which was less than my pocket money from when I was a student, right? But I just saw the big opportunity. I saw it as a land of opportunity for me. And from there, I spent 2 years at the agency. And in fact, 1 year, 11 months, and like 3 weeks. And then I moved to the multinational side of things. And it's been onwards and upwards since then.
I like how you were very precise with the numbers at the agency.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You know what? May God bless the days of humble beginnings. And I'm happy you highlight that because people can see where you are now and just think, oh, how can she get there? Or how can I get there? But highlighting
Mm,
the humble beginnings, highlighting the fact that you earned 60K, which was less than your pocket money when you were in school, it just shows progress. It shows progression. It shows that anyone could actually achieve this regardless of how you started. So that is actually
absolutely.
amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Where would you say it started, the shift career wise?
Okay, so I'll say two things. The first one is when I did move to Lagos and I was working at this small business. For me, I see a lot of people see people doing well and they get threatened, they
Hmm.
get jealous. But for me, when I see somebody doing really well, it's inspiration for me. It means that it's possible for me. And so when I was working at this small company, I used to go to lots of client meetings at large conglomerates, and you would see these high-powered women just walking, strutting, owning things in the meeting. And I was like, man, I want to be like this one day. And I love what they do. And so I decided that, look, I don't care how much they're paying me, even if it's 5,000 naira or zero. I'm going to throw myself into this career and learn everything I can like a sponge, mop it up because I know that I'm investing in my tomorrow. And I told myself
Mm.
that I was here doing an MBA. That's what I said. I'm doing an MBA and my tuition is free and they are paying me a stipend. That was the way I took it. And so that was how I just learned a lot, started networking, etc. But on the other front, um, one thing that happened in terms of Empower You was that when I moved to Lagos, I will never forget, I moved to Lagos on the 1st of November 2012 and I joined a church 5 days later, 6th of November. And you know how it is in church, I came in, I introduced myself as a newcomer, and they'll say, oh, what do you do for a living? I said, I just finished my master's, I'm looking for a job. And within a month, 6th of December, I came to testify that I've gotten a job. And so many people came to meet me. But you just came. How did you get a job? We were been in this Lagos for 1 year, 18
Mm.
months, 2 years. We've not gotten jobs. And so my question to them was, oh, you know what? Send me your CV. If I see a job,
Mm-hmm.
I'll send your CV to the people. Don't worry, something will come
Mm,
up. And eventually, what I found was that for everybody that sent me their CV, so you won't
mm,
believe it, their CVs were not good. Their CVs were really, I am sorry to use this language, but they were terrible. And then I realized that that's why they didn't have a job, because what they were telling me was Nigeria is a bad place, no job, no job. And so what I simply did was I didn't even correct this. I didn't even edit the CVs for them. I just sent feedback on the CVs, change this cannot be here, do this, do that. And they updated it. And when I saw job vacancies, I would send. And for a lady that I used to, meet with in church, she had been out of job for months. Within a month of
mm,
sending me her CV, she had gotten a job by her own
mhm.
power because I gave her the feedback of what to do to change her CV. And so the word started to spread. I was helping lots of people change their CVs, preparing people for interviews, especially when I moved to the multinationals. People were like, okay, we have our jobs, we like our jobs, but we want to move to conglomerates, help me. And so that was how Empower You was birthed, was because I was coaching a lot of people and I needed to now formalize it, structure it, and help people at scale.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm gonna go back to what you said about your mindset when you
Mm,
started working at your job. You're saying
yeah,
you looked at it as an MBA, like this is a
yeah.
training ground for me to soak it all up like a sponge and learn. That is that is just remarkable because a lot of these things have to do with mindset as well. Because you could equally have felt like, okay, these people are not paying me enough, and or maybe even felt intimidated by the glam and what you saw, and but you said you felt inspired by it and you soaked things up like a sponge, and then
Mm,
obviously once you were empowered, you now started sharing that gift and helping other people. I think that's one of the things I wanted to highlight because from the common thread I keep hearing is environment matters a lot. If you're in the right environment or you're connecting to the right people, you're creating the right networking opportunities, you're able to change your story. Because some of our previous guests, they mentioned that they did an MBA. So you didn't actually do an MBA. You said you did the MBA in the job place, but she said she wanted to do an MBA in Colombia. And she said literally when she walked into the university, she could see it was having a North Star, seeing someone doing what you want to achieve
mm.
inspires you to kind of, okay, I can do this because someone else is doing it. But I really, really love the fact that you mentioned that you got your own MBA in the workplace. I love that fact. So, walk us through that journey and starting Empower You. So, you said doing consulting for people. So, when did you actually formalize things, and how has the journey been so far?
Very interesting. So, I mean, I unconsciously started doing this, over 10 years ago. And I think in 2013 or 2014, I called it Empower You. I didn't register the business, I didn't do anything, but my close friends knew it as Empower You. And I would always talk about, oh, when I registered the business, this is what I'm going to do. For years and years, I spoke and spoke about what I wanted to do, but I didn't do it. It was all
Mm,
very informal. And then, a group of friends invited me for a vision board session in December 2018. And
mm,
everybody had to commit to what they were going to do in 2019 with timelines and goals. And I committed that I would register the business and take it seriously, hire a team because I didn't want to leave my 9 to 5 because for me, 9 to 5 is a platform for me. And by the time I committed to all of those amazing women, I said, "Hey, I cannot let these women down." And so 17th
mm,
of Jan 2019, the business was formally registered, and that's when I rolled out. I said, "Okay, I'm going to start a page. I'm going to get clients properly," because I had only been consulting for friends or friends of friends. And that was how it started. And for me, the reason why it took so long to get there was because even though I am a very open person, I can be very outgoing. I am not somebody that wants to be talking and, in quotes, preaching on the internet. Like, I struggled with that. I don't mind doing speaking engagements
mm,
physically, one on ones, but to sit down on the internet creating content, I just felt that this is not me. This is not my personality at all. Like, I struggled
mm,
and struggled to make a video to tell my story. No, because I'm just not one of those people. Like, I can post pictures having
mm,
fun, but to tell deep stories about my struggles and to also talk about my accomplishments publicly had been a struggle. And so that was what took me so long. But eventually, after that vision board session, I think the growth was unlocked there in my mind and in execution.
Okay, so now you just totally shocked me because there is no way that I would have guessed that. No, because I see your videos, it's so natural. It's like you're born to do this. It's come
Thank
across, and this is
you.
honestly, it comes across so natural. Like I
Mm,
feel like you're so confident with your speaking and sharing. I think everyone feels a little, most people can feel a little bit uncomfortable sharing your story because it's like you're open, you're being vulnerable. But there is a
yeah.
lot of growth in that space, that area of discomfort. There's a lot of growth there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to touch on your point, I've always been open about sharing my story. My challenge was coming out onto a platform where I'm sharing with people I can't see. So I will go
Ah.
for speaking engagements, talk, in career workshops, in churches and stuff. The fact that I can see, touch, and feel, it was okay. But for me, I just had that fear of what am I going to be saying on the internet to thousands of people that I cannot see? How are they going to take my message? What if they don't like it? What if they troll me? I ran away for years, but then God finally did it, and I'm grateful. Yeah, that it finally happened.
Wow. Well, I'm grateful you had the call because people are
Yeah.
already being inspired and being blessed by you sharing and you empowering people through your consulting firm. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was a lot of my listeners are moms who are trying to make strides. They're trying to make strides, they're trying
Mm,
to balance. And it is tricky. It is tricky because, and I'm saying this from experience, when a woman takes time out sometimes to have babies, the
mm,
workplace can be a bit unforgiving. Just the previous podcast guest I had, there was a fantastic opportunity. She said she wanted the opportunity. She prayed, she cried, and she did the interview, smashed the interview. And when it got down to it, because she had little kids, they decided to go with a man that didn't
oh,
have all
wow.
those
Wow. Wow.
there was also another thing I wanted to mention. There's a book I read recently, Lean In, by the former COO of Facebook. And she
Yeah.
said how when a career opportunity comes up, a man that may have 30% of the qualification would go for it. But a woman that may have 90% would not put herself forward for the opportunity because she feels she's not fully qualified
Mm.
yet. What do you think about that? Why do we do that as women? And why is the word clicks a bit unforgiving to women? What do you think?
Man, this topic is a topic on its own. It's a whole full podcast. But let me just say very briefly, the first thing is this, right? You see, when God made women, we were automatically given, Eve was given to Adam. I mean, when Eve was made, there was an Adam there that she was already helping. She was doing a lot of things already, right? So women are by
Mhm,
nature, we're nurturers, we're builders. We like to develop stuff and see the finished product. So when it comes to ourselves as well, we like to be finished, right? Unlike men,
mhm,
they said Adam was made from dust, so rough. Men can rough it. It doesn't matter. 5%
mm,
of qualifications, I'm ready. Let's go. But a woman that was made from bone, carefully, created and curated, is very careful. She's poised about everything. So she wants to make sure if she's going to go for something, she's ready for it. I think it's a mindset thing. I love what you said about the book that you read because I've also been a part of a workshop at a company that I used to work for, and a female director, global director, said something. She said in her over 20 years of her career, she's managed equal amounts of men and women, about 40 people, 20 men, 20 women. Said in that whole time, all 20 men asked her for a raise. Out of the 20 women, only one ever asked her for a raise. So women are those type
mm.
of people. We won't go for things because of our innate nature. But also because of the ways we've been shaped in society. I thank God because the Gen Z women that are coming up are very different. We're going to say a different direction, right? But for the millennials, the baby boomers, nobody taught us to go after what we want. It was all about how to cook eggs and noodles and things like that, right? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
taught us how to be savvy, how to be business minded, how to be confident, how to speak up. These are things that we had to learn later on in life. And I thank God because I have a mom that is very sharp, that always, that tells me things, negotiate this salary, do this, do that. So innately I wasn't like that. It was only after I came into adulthood that I started coming into my own to ask for things that I want. But it's not innate for women, I'll be honest with you. And even sometimes I struggle and have to remind myself that I need to do things the way they should be done.
Reference about the raise, it's not unsurprising. It's sad, but it's not.
Mm,
I'm not shocked because
yeah,
it's we don't want to be perceived as rude or maybe as too assertive. So
yeah,
sometimes because we're conscious of how we come across, even if we feel we're due to get something, we may kind of hold back. I think we need to deliver ourselves from that. Because
absolutely.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
compounded issue. There's so much to it. There's a fear of rejection, there's a fear of being seen as aggressive, there's a lot of nature, nurture issues. It's so it's complex. That's why I said you need a whole podcast to talk about this.
mm.
Yeah.
But how can we begin to start changing that mindset, especially us millennials? Like we know we're not trained or brought up to put ourselves forward in that way. We don't want to come across as too bossy or too much of a go-getter. And there's nothing even wrong with that. I
Yeah,
actually don't
yeah.
think if a woman wants to be that and she wants to, for example, focus solely on a career, absolutely, it's a matter of choice of a choice. How do we begin to leave that mindset behind? What do you think, Fee?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't say I know the answers, but what I'll say is the first thing is to tell yourself that you deserve a seat at the table, right? You deserve to be where you want to be, you deserve to be where you
Mhm,
are, you deserve to be in that seat where men are. So it starts with the mind. Whatever you
mhm.
can conceive, you're already ready to achieve. If you can't conceive it in your mind, you're not going to be able to do it. So it's just the mindset. First of all, we need to deal with that. And then the second thing is this. Hmm. And it's something that I'm learning is that I'm by nature, I can be a little bit, I don't know what I can by nature be a little bit aggressive, but I met a boss's boss of mine, a woman who was super assertive with the most calm voice ever, but you do not mess with her ever. Yes. And then I learned something called feminine energy. Is the fact that there's so much
Mm-hmm.
testosterone in the boardroom already. They do not need additional testosterone or wannabe testosterone. So bring your assertiveness in your feminine energy. That's why we're created as women. So it's like go after what you want because you know you deserve it, right? But it's you don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to compete with the men. You don't have to have the loudest voices. You can be truly authentic. You can be truly yourself and be a woman and still get what you want. But what I have to say is that as women, our
Mm-hmm.
battle is a little bit more difficult than men because of marriage, childbirth, responsibilities at home, and all of those things. So the truth is that sometimes we may have to work a little bit harder, and there's no denying that. If you
Mm-hmm.
know that this is what you want to be, I know what I want to be with my career. I want to be the managing director of a multinational. I know what it takes. At least partly. I may not know the full picture of it, but I know that there's some last night I worked till 2 a.m. in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had other things to do. I had my household stuff to manage and then I had to continue my work. A man can come home, do his work, he's in bed by 10. So he's realizing that, yeah, your battle might be a bit more difficult, but go for it. And where you can, make the right choices in terms of delegating and, outsourcing some of these things so that you can actually focus on your career.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I actually wrote something you said down. It says you said bring your assertiveness with your feminine energy. I love that
Yeah.
quote. That is amazing. I think
Please.
that is the sweet spot there.
Yeah,
Don't let
man.
go of what don't let go, don't shrink, don't
Yeah.
cower, rise up to the challenge, sit at the table, but with your feminine energy. I think that is literally the
Absolutely.
sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And be your authentic self, man. There's nobody else.
100%. So let's go to LinkedIn. This is a separate
Mm.
question, and I included just before we started. What are your
Whoop,
thoughts
whoop.
on utilizing it? Like,
Hmm.
why do you think we millennials, well, some of us, I won't say all of us, are still a bit skeptical with LinkedIn. I would say
Mhm.
we're not utilizing it as much as we should, basically.
Okay. So I'm gonna say this 100%, 120,000 million%. LinkedIn is the GOAT. And I'm not even joking. Africa is probably, maybe one of the underutilized continents in terms of LinkedIn. But
Mm,
when I look at my career, I don't want to talk about the small businesses I've worked at. I like to focus on the multinationals because this is where I feel like I put myself on the map. I worked at four multinationals, right?
mm.
Diageo, GSK, Mondelez, Godrej. Three of those jobs were from LinkedIn.
Wow, okay.
Yes. In the last 10 years, like, and honestly, Tony, I say this, LinkedIn has not paid me a dime. I don't have any partnerships with LinkedIn. I've never done anything with LinkedIn, but that platform, I visit that platform every single day, even when I'm not looking for a job, because you see, there are 700 million users on LinkedIn, right? Almost a billion. That is a whole country. That's bigger than Nigeria. It's almost the size of the population of India, right? LinkedIn is like a whole country, big country, or even a continent. You can get connected to literally almost everybody you need to get connected to. The beauty about LinkedIn is this. And I can tell you this, in the last maybe 8 years, yeah, since 2014, I have only applied for a handful of jobs. Most of the job applications I've ever had have been recruiters or HR managers on LinkedIn reaching out to me. So there is a plethora of opportunities on LinkedIn for jobs, even business opportunities as well, right? If you're looking for funding, great. The University of Oxford reached out to me on LinkedIn to say, look, we've looked at your profile. You're a high profile candidate. Are you interested in doing an MBA? You can come to the Said Business School and we will sponsor you. This was through LinkedIn from them looking at my profile. In the year
Wow.
2020, I was interviewed, yes, by the BBC UK and Channel TV. And I asked them, how did you find me? LinkedIn. In July 2021, I started business consulting, like as an ad hoc thing. How did I stumble upon it? LinkedIn. A woman from India reached out to me to say, a company wanted to launch in Africa and they wanted to speak to experts on ground about certain things, and they would pay me hundreds of dollars per hour just to answer their questions and give them an indication. All of these things have happened on LinkedIn. The amount of opportunities, exposure, if I had to quantify the money that I have made through this platform of LinkedIn, it will be in the hundreds of millions of naira, right? Um, LinkedIn is goals, and this is Africa. In the UK, in the US, Canada, in the United Arab Emirates, it's even bigger in terms of the footprint. So LinkedIn is an amazing, amazing platform, and people should utilize it. The reason why I love it the most is that once you have a good profile on there, you can literally, you know how they say passive income, you can be receiving passive job opportunities by not even applying. My current job I was headhunted for. Guinness I was headhunted for, right? And my Mondelez job I wasn't headhunted. I simply made a LinkedIn application and I got the job. But those are three jobs, and there have been many more opportunities as well. Great job offers I have received on LinkedIn that I've had to reject. It is the platform.
So how do we begin to, okay, so now that you've not sold it, it is the goat. I believe LinkedIn is now the goat of the
Whoop, whoop,
platforms.
whoop.
But okay, so we need to brush up our LinkedIn profiles. What tips would you
Mm.
give us in terms of what is a no and what should definitely be included?
Okay, okay. Thanks, Toyin, for that question. Sorry, before I answer that, let me just say I forgot to respond to this. You had asked why are millennials shying away, and it's just the same things that we've spoken about. We were not really born to amplify our strengths and talk about our achievements. Those sort of things were regarded as bragging. And for me, even though I am active on LinkedIn, I don't share a lot of these things on LinkedIn because I also find that sometimes I find it awkward. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this
Mm-hmm.
fear to become like the aspire to perspire sort of people. Um, but I say to people, look, you don't have to be talking motivational stories on LinkedIn every day. You can just share insights, or you can just be active in terms of interacting with other people's posts. But the key thing for me with LinkedIn is just a couple of things. I like to segment it. I say, first of all, if I look at it from top to bottom, the first thing that people will typically see on your LinkedIn profile is your picture. Just have a professional picture. A lot of people don't put a lot of thought into their LinkedIn profile. Some people don't even put any picture. Um, when you have a picture on LinkedIn, I think your profile is 39 times more likely to be clicked on and found. So you need a picture. People will put a selfie, they'll put all sorts of pictures that are inappropriate. Just put a professional picture. You don't have to go to a studio. My LinkedIn picture was taken at home here by a friend using an iPhone. Simple. Just look professional. What is the image you want to portray? The second thing is the headlines. So this is where people make mistakes. People will usually put their current job title as their headline on LinkedIn, but that's not what that part is for. Your headline is what you want to be found for. So imagine that I'm an accountant, but I
Mm.
actually want to move into data analysis. On my headline, I should actually put data analysis or data analytics manager with an accounting background, so that when people search for HR professionals or recruiters search for data analytics manager, they will find me, right? Another mistake that people make on LinkedIn is that they just copy and paste their CV there. No, it shouldn't be that way. Your CV is limited to 2 pages. I always say that your CV is like a street, while LinkedIn is the whole city. So with LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to put in so much. Have you worked on some great projects? So for example, if I was the owner of this podcast, all my the links to my podcast will be on my LinkedIn profile under my featured, things like that. So LinkedIn has the opportunity for you to actually upload projects, profiles, stuff that you've done, and also put out your achievements as well. The other thing that people don't take seriously is completing their profile. People will just put maybe their current job. They won't put the previous jobs because they feel like it's a lot of work. But what that does is that it limits you, because let's say you've
Mm.
been working for the last 10 years and you only put your current job that you've been in for 2 years. If they're looking for a manager with 10 years experience, you won't come up because LinkedIn will profile you as somebody with just 2 years experience. So it's important that you actually include all of your experience, your work qualifications, your education. Complete your profile. When you complete your profile on LinkedIn, it rates you as an all-star profile. That's another mistake people make on LinkedIn. They don't complete all the different sections. They just say, "Oh, let me just do this one, Joe. This one is not necessary." No, but when you actually complete and you see that all-star badge, it means that your profile is complete. So LinkedIn will show your profile to searchers, employers, business partners, prospective stakeholders 40 times more than people that don't have a complete profile. So it greatly increases your visibility. Those are, for me, the top mistakes and top tips. The top mistakes that people make on
Mhm.
LinkedIn and top tips to be able to counter that.
Wow. Thing. I feel a little bit like being told off. Do you know I don't have any any information about the podcast on my LinkedIn? I think it's probably about,
No.
oh no, I need to take some time out and update my LinkedIn profile. But
You
thank you
need
so much
to.
for sharing that. That is useful. I didn't even know there was a thing called headlining, an all-style profile. So this is
Yeah.
actually very useful tips, and I've made notes. I've actually made some notes. But thank you so much for
Awesome.
sharing that. Do you have any final advice for my listeners on how to just walk into this career that they're dreaming of? So this, maybe I'm trying to imagine a mom here that is listening to us, that's wanted to have a career, work in a multinational, but probably feels a little bit like intimidated or feels like she doesn't have what it takes. What would be some practical steps? Say, for example, she has a bachelor's, but then hasn't really got a lot of work experience. What would be practical steps she can take to take her to that place so she can achieve?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Toyin, for that question. It's very important that people know what they want and are willing to make the sacrifices. I know people that will not go on holiday. They won't buy anything for 5 years because they're trying to finish up a house that they're building, or they're trying to send their children to private school. in the UK. Beautiful, fantastic. Those are some of the deposits you need to make in your career as well. I always say to women, this is our time. Companies are more aware of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So it's not about, oh, let's just put a woman here. No, let's put a woman that's competent. So there's an intentional move for companies to do that. So this is our time, right? So the first thing is to say, okay, this is my time and I'm willing to do this. Now, have clarity. Number two is have clarity on what you want out of your career. Is it
Mm-hmm.
marketing? Is it accounting? Where am I going? Me, I know where I'm going already by the special grace of God. Is having clarity in that and being focused, being sold to that vision alone. Once you know what it is, grab the job descriptions and see
Mm-hmm.
where do I fit in. I always say that if you've got 60 to 70% of the qualifications on a job description, please go ahead and apply. While you apply, go and find a way to close the 30 to 40% gap. You don't have to have 100. I've never been 100% qualified for any job that I have gotten in my
Mm.
life. Never. It's always 60 to 70, at most maybe 80%. But what I'll say is this: do that assessment to say, okay, I'm a 60. What is this 40% gap? How do I close this gap? And this is where people
Mm.
come in. If you have mentors, if you have peers, reach out to them. They can help you. I remember when I was moving to GSK, there were certain things I didn't have yet. I reached out to a friend of mine, Ubani, and he really coached me, taught me a lot about profit and loss because I needed that skill. When I was moving to Diageo, same thing. I didn't understand a lot about digital media. I got a friend to coach me on that. So there are people you can reach out to. There are courses you can take to close that 40% gap. But even at 60 to 70, make sure you apply. And if you're not at 60 to 70, get yourself to 60 to 70. Invest in yourself. If it's a paid course or a free course, you will need to invest time and money. Let me be honest with you. But do it because
Mm.
you will reap the benefits, right? I can't compare the amount of money and time I have spent investing in my career to the reward that I have gotten so far. Just from a self
That's a good
actualization
point.
perspective,
Mm.
exactly. From a reward, from travel, from just being fulfilled, and even the monetary um benefits as well. So do that. Invest, brush up, right? And just go for it. Invest the time and show them why you are there. One thing we need to do. I worked at a company before that didn't really hire Nigerian managing directors, and they hired one, and there were some challenges, and he was let go. And since then, this is, I mean, almost 10 years later, no other Nigerian MD has been hired. So when we get into those positions as women, especially women of color, remember that you're not just doing it for yourself or your family, you're doing it for all the women
Mm.
behind you. If we go there
Yeah.
and we mess it up and we just take it and we become a quota person, oh, this is just the diversity hire, then we're spoiling it for that women. They'll say, ah, these women, they cannot do this kind of job. Oh. Mm-mm. Let us go there, let us invest, let us perform and be very conscious to deliver so that when we're leaving those positions, they will say, ah, a woman came into this role and delivered. In fact, she over delivered. And so we want to keep the pathway, right? But if we don't deliver, then we block things for the people coming behind us,
Others.
the pipeline.
Mm.
Absolutely. So for me, those are my top tips. And I'll just say invest in your pie, right? This is your performance. Make sure your performance is top notch. Your image as a woman, we need to have the right
Mm.
image in the workplace as well. And image is not just what you wear, is also the fragrance you leave behind when people meet you. Is it, oh, that woman that is very nasty? Oh, that woman that is so weak, she's not assertive? Is it, oh, that woman that is just a flirt? Or that woman that is this as that? Or is it that woman that has a very strong conviction and she's able to convince people of her point and deliver inspiration? What is the image? And expose yourself. Exposure. So performance, image, exposure. Expose yourself to the right networks, the right stakeholders. Make sure you have your mentors, your coaches, your sponsors, your peers, and also the proteges that you're building. That for me is it. Woman, the workplace awaits you.
Wow. Fiyin, you were preaching. I was just like, oh my goodness. No,
Uh,
that is absolutely fantastic. Pie, performance, image, and exposure. Thank you so much for sharing that.
you're
And wow,
welcome.
there's so much nuggets there that you've just kind of dropped. And really, we need to just push. We need to close the gaps. We need to,
Yeah,
we don't have to wait to be 100%, like you said, and try and reach out to people that have gone ahead of us, that are doing what we want to achieve, and say, okay, listen, can you coach me on this? Could you show me how to do this? Can you show me the ropes? and literally put
Absolutely.
ourselves forward with boldness and confidence. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
You are welcome. Thank you so much.
So we normally conclude our podcast with three questions. Well, just before we go to the three questions, how can my
Mm.
listeners reach you if they wanted to reach out to you or find out more about what you're doing? Can you tell us a bit more about what you're doing?
Okay, thank you so much. So I run a career consulting company, like Toyin has said, called EmpowerU Career Consulting, and we basically help people get the jobs that they really want, not just any job, by teaching them the skills, the tips, the tricks they need to land those dream jobs. You can find us on Instagram, EmpowerU_NG. You can also find us on YouTube, Career Convos, and you can email us as well. Hello at empoweru, letter U .ng. Thank you so much.
I'm going to be including the links on the description when the
Whoop, whoop.
podcast is out. So I'm
Yeah.
encouraging you, my listeners, reach out to Fiyi and her team. Okay, so let's move on to the final questions. So
Whoop,
do
whoop,
we
whoop.
so we normally end the podcast with these three questions. And I'll start with the first one. What life lesson have you learned recently, which you wished you learned sooner?
No matter how amazing you are, not everybody will like you and will be
Ooh,
drawn to your cause. Even Jesus Christ was hated. So who are you to think everybody will like you?
okay, Fee, that is, I wasn't expecting that, but that is so relatable. Can you just
Yep.
expand a little bit on that?
Hey,
A little, I want to hear some
Emily.
just.
Hmm. Basically, I mean, what I'll say is this. You see, for women, a lot of the time, we don't like conflict and stuff. In the workplace, you
Mm-hmm.
will face conflict. You might be doing things, you might say, I don't like trouble. I just stay in my lane. Some people will not like you for staying in your lane. Then you
Mm.
come out of your lane and you're engaging. Some people will not like you for engaging because they say this one is too nosy. She gets into everything. You might just say, you know what? I'm just focused on delivering results. I just want to shine. Some people will not like you for shining. So no matter what you do, there are people that will like you, people that will admire you, and there are people that will just not like you. You're just not their cup of tea, and it is fine because you're not jollof fries. Okay, so just stay focused. Don't let them distract you.
Another takeaway, you're not jollof rice. Oh my God. Sweet. Yeah. Oh no. We need to be delivered from this, thing of wanting to be liked, because
Mm,
you're not going, no matter what you do, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And not everyone would even
absolutely.
buy into your vision or your plan or your
Yeah,
career or whatever aspiration you want anyway. But yes, that is a life
absolutely.
lesson. The second question, when do you feel the happiest? I feel the happiness when do you feel the happiest?
When I'm on holiday on a beach, doing some water sports with my husband, that is when I feel the happiest. Let me be honest with you. I would have said something
Well,
deep, but that is it.
please. That is
With my
that is
family
that is
too.
good.
Let me add my family, with the whole family, my sister, her kids, my mom, everybody, but on holiday, beach, sipping some nice, you know, cocktails and having fun.
That's it. Work hard, play hard. That's it.
Absolutely.
If you could tell 5-year-old Fiend something, what would you tell her?
It would be speak up, be assertive, be confident. You know, you have a bright future ahead of you, girl. Just do it.
Wow. Thank you so much. I need to go back and even re-listen to this podcast once it's out because there's so many nuggets that you've
Oh,
given us today. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being authentic, for just blessing us with your gift and your knowledge. We appreciate you
oh.
here on Mommy and Thriving. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I had an amazing time. Thanks, Toyin. You're doing an amazing job. To many more in Jesus' name. Sorry, I've changed this podcast into a Christian podcast, but honestly, thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to listen to even more episodes after this.